Muslim. Hmm. Muslim. They're like, come on, we want to go home. One minute. Yes, sir. Good morning, good evening, good night, whatever part of the world you're looking at us from, and whatever time of the day you're looking at us. Uh, Today is Thursday, the 14th of November, 2024. Today is a Thursday. The time now is 2 p.m. We are in London, United Kingdom, and the temperature today is around 10 degrees, which is a bit, depending on what you're wearing. You see, it's cold. 10 degrees is cold. It's actually autumn. You can't see the actual leaves around. Can't see the leaves around us at the moment because we're pointing towards the lake. And again, we've got a couple of ducks there. Right. Let me just zoom down. Right. You can see pigeon, and you see a couple of ducks there. Don't know if you can see the duck having a little bit of a barney there. All right. Well, they've sorted that out. Yeah. So. We're in autumn, and it's cold today. It's an overcast day. With the wind blowing, it'll be down to about less than 10 degrees. Let's just tilt it up a bit because it's delayed. Yeah. It'll be less than 10 degrees, around 8 degrees. And at night now, we have to put our central heating on, or keep warm, whichever way we can keep warm. Let me take to this side over here, and so here we are in London. Loads of interesting things are happening. Hopefully later on Graham would come along. I've got to start exactly on time because those of you who are tuning in, at least you got a broadcast timetable to actually go to. So what's been happening? Well, there's still a war going on in Gaza, South Bank. We have a new president of America, and he's choosing his cabinet, and we are going to have Elon Musk is head of making all government departments more efficient for the American government there. Actually, let me just do a check here, just make sure that I am. Yeah, okay, we're in real time. Yeah, Elon Musk is going to be in charge of efficiency in the American government. We also have, today it was announced that the pension fund, the government pension fund, would be teamed up, all the different borough councils and probably other government departments. The pension funds is going to be in one big lump sum and be invested in order to keep up with the inflation. Now, I think that's a good idea, but innately, this economic system that we're in, including the stock market, including interest rate, including the cost of living, including inflation, is all linked up together. And we're in a cycle now, economically, we're in a cycle where basically the poor will get poorer. And the reason the poor will get poorer, if you don't get any more money, if you can't generate any more income, because prices are constantly rising, it means you can't pay for your food, your energy, transportation, all of that goes up. and all of that is linked. And if your income actually stays the same, then you are starting to go backwards. It isn't your fault, it's the economic system that you're in. And what is really, really terrible is that countries, undeveloped countries, or countries just starting to develop, are getting involved with that system. You would never, it is designed for you to never win. If you remember, it was probably about 20 years ago, they had to forgive a lot of African countries their debt because they can't pay it back. It's designed for you not to pay it back. It's a form of slavery. You've got to realize that even this country, the total government debt actually over exceeds, or just about reaches the total GDP, gross domestic product, of this country for a year. It's, some will say 2.7 trillion, some will say 2.8. It's predicted it's going to be 3 trillion in a few months' time, right? Britain itself is actually paying interest rate on that debt, and some forecasters would actually say to you that they will never pay off that debt. Some forecasters would say up to 2029, the end of this decade, that's when Britain is actually going to start seeing a positive drop in what? Debts, inflation, interest rates. I don't know. I think it will continue. Rising. Now back to the poor getting poorer and the rich getting richer. So if you got loads of money, like you are the fund manager for the government retirement. I'm going to say retirement bonds or retirement funds. If you're managing that investment company, right, and you buy shares, I bet you they're gonna float it. They're gonna float it by shares. So therefore, you'll be putting your capital in, and with the stock market and interest rate. With the stock market, it would always go up in price. And the more people will buy, the more the price will go up. And, you know, it's like Elon Musk's company. Not only Elon Musk, but Bezos, Amazon, Mr. Amazon. And is this sort of financial mechanism, financial technique. That's why Bezos and Elon Musk are the richest man in the world, because they take advantage of that system, you know, that mechanism. That's where you have money, you have shares, you have funds, and you're part of the banking system. We're not fund managers. Well, I'm not saying we're fund managers. You know, I'm not a fund manager, but if you got money or your family's got money, and you of course have a private fund manager who will help manage the funds for you. So so your wealth will continue growing with the stock market continuing to rise. And if you've invested in a company that is doing well, that is in demand, and a good example is NVIDIA, one of the companies involved in producing computer chips for AI. In fact, it's a video graphics company, and they found that the video computing chip, it is the most is the most powerful thing in relation to the AI, how the AI system works. So it's not the Intel chip. In fact, they're now using this thing called ARM, the ARM's chips, and they've got a different kind of processing. So all the software you've had to be rewritten to this new architecture. And the thing about investment, so that NVIDIA company, for tens of years, nothing was happening. But all of a sudden, with the artificial intelligence industry and how artificial intelligence is actually proceeding at the moment, this is a very important chip at the moment. So the price is actually skyrocketed. So if you had bought some of the shares in that company probably 5 to 10 years ago, it's probably something like 50 pence a share. But now it's probably about $100 a share. I'm not quite too sure, but it's quite volatile because it goes ups and downs. So you lose 5 and 10%, but 5 and 10% of $100, if you started at 50 pence, it is not too bad. But so today, the announcement by Our Lady Chancellor of the Exchequer that all the retirement funds is going to go into an investment company. It's probably a government investment company, or it could be a private investment company. But if I make a guess, it's going to be a private investment company, because these and the various ministers involved will probably get shares in that company. And of course, their shares will go up in value, and when they cash it in, etc., etc. But that's if you involve that. So that's at that level. That's at the investment level, fund management, and that's if you are involved in fund management. You're linked with the stock market, and you're watching the Financial Times FT 100. You're watching it rise and fall every day. You're watching the American stock market rise and fall every day, right? And so that's a completely different world. But meanwhile, down on the streets, you have no way of increasing your income. If you're on the government's benefit system, it's up to the government to increase what they pay to you by whatever amount the cost of living has gone up, so that you can just remain even, and so the rich is going to get richer, the poor is going to get poorer under this economic system. And as I've said before, the government cannot pay the bills, right? Because not only when it gives any of its department a pay rise, it also says, linked with that is a cost efficiency component, which means they've got to cut back. And sometimes they say, oh, you've got to cut back by about 10%, and they've given you 5%. So literally, you've gone backwards about 5%. And year on year, after a good few years, come in, Graham. We are live. If you watch down there, you can see you're in. Right, yeah. So how you doing?
I'm feeling a bit better from my Trumpish depression.
Do you know, last Saturday, I went to the market, and I felt that there was a mass, everybody in the market is not necessarily a mass depression, but
I felt among my friends too. It's hard to explain what it is, because obviously we're using the terms from the psychological lexicon. So I mean, we all know when somebody's clinically depressed, but this is a kind of unhappiness, powerlessness, a kind of something between sadness and depression.
Yeah. Okay. So you notice this sadness?
No. Oh yes. And a lot of people that I know can't even talk.
Really?
And some people haven't gone to the classes I've gone to.
Wow.
I just feel it.
Wow.
You know. Some, because they know I'm always like talking about these things. Some of them don't want to meet me and talk to me because they know I'm quite fed up, and it'll reflect how they're fed up they are, and you know they're more fed up, they're more blown out. And I think some of the people who haven't really done anything active
Yeah.
are actually more blown out than the rest of us who have been active, who have tried.
Have you figured out what the components are that has affected you? You know, was it specifically about Trump? Was it specifically about Trump's policy? Was it about the budget?
Oh, let's let everything together. I mean, it's the victory of the far right in one of the biggest countries in the world, and the clarion call of the far right everywhere. So the whole package is it's a victory of sexism, racism, homophobia, the abortionists, you know, the religious fundamentalists, the misogynists, the people who want to go backward, the militarists, violence, disregarding social rules, enabling rudeness,
Wow.
and enabling selfishness, and saying that might is right, and saying that the rich are good and that the poor are bad. And knowing that it's a majority of people who are quite poor that should actually be socialists, the people we've been trying to work on over the last 20 years. So it's a blow in so many directions at once. But that, nevertheless, you know, I like you are always looking for, you know,
The
like
bright side of life.
the bright side of life, or
Always
chinks in the
look
armor.
on- You know where that song comes from, don't you?
Yeah, Monty Python.
He's hanging on the cross, he's pinned
Yeah,
up
hanging
there,
on the cross and
three
he's
of
pinned
them,
up.
and then they all start singing, always.
Yeah.
This it is apocalyptic.
And this is the time to do it. So this is our Monty Python moment. Now, and talking about Monty Python moment, I'm listening to the World Service last night.
Okay.
It was better than the Radio 4 in general and international things.
Okay.
You know, they talk much more on Palestine. They're a little bit fairer, not very fair, but a little bit fairer. And they're a bit fairer on Trump and, you know, like I'm not that BBC pro-Trump, but they just wring their hands and say, well, this has happened, you know, it's not good, but there we are, that's it. You know, we've got to accept it. But they won't analyse the situation, whereas the World Service, they'll analyse it a bit more, they'll have people on. Like, they had one specialist from a university on, right? And he was talking about Trump's latest appointment of his lunatics, right? Chosen out of his, you know,
Which one are you up to? Is it
well, there's
Musk?
someone,
Or is it the new guy?
no, the new man called Matt Gaetz,
Is it the one?
Matt Gaetz.
Is it going to be the head of the
the
military?
head of justice.
Oh, the justice one.
Right.
And he's got criminal cases
Now,
against him.
right. Trump thinks he's great
Yeah.
because he will be very hard on the justice and make it a Trump justice. He'll be very hard and will try his best. First of all, to get all Trump's crimes annulled and the crimes of far right people and anti-woke, like wokeness, you know, so the attack on that. He's very right-wing, very nasty, very misogynistic, he's very racialist, and so he seems the perfect person, and the base love him. So that's going to work for a couple of that looks like it might work for a couple of years. But here's the flaw, the cracks, because he's I've been looking at TYT, the Midas Touch, and other American programs which are both radical and even liberal, the whole gamut of centre left to left, right? And he has been, and even the comedians even the comedians like we were talking about last week. What is their names? I forgot.
That's right, just tell us what they
But anyway, this Matt Gates has been investigated for 2 years. He's absolute poison. He's been investigated not by the ordinary state police, but by the FBI.
for what
Because when they're crimes which cross over, which are national, they investigate it and they do it seriously and they take time. Now, he's been investigated for sex trafficking,
wow.
right, of immigrant women to and procuring them,
Wow.
which means pimping,
Wow.
across state lines, right, from one state to another, also, and covering up for other people that do that, right, and also, he's got links to gangsters, right, big drugs lords,
Wow.
and he's been actually using his legal experience to cover up for them. Now, I'm getting a bit foggy on this, but this is the general tenor of what's going on. And what happened is six Republicans, and I'm using the word Republican rather than MAGA. They're like pre-MAGA, but they've been in the House of Representatives, which they were like hung on when the Democrats were controlling it. But now they've got the sweep of it, of course,
Okay.
right? But they are saying they will leave if he's taken on. They're saying that he's disgusting.
So
They're not going to have a sex abuser, right, with that horrible smell, right? They're not going to have that smell of sewage, right, in the Congress next to them,
Wait,
right?
isn't that part of your prediction? You said they're going to start.
Well, yes, that was my prediction, and it's happening quicker than I thought. Now, it's a good thing Trump is really thick, because what he would do is he wouldn't take him on. But he loves him, and his base loves him, and he's very rude and nasty, and he will keep his promise of trying to get rid of Trump's convictions, which is on just, you know, what Trump's all about, his personal problems. That's the whole everything he's about. So psychologically, right, he can't get rid of him. He needs him. But here comes the crux, right? Now, the thing is, right, during his honeymoon, you know, like as he said, he could shoot somebody in Times Square. He's great, everyone's great, marvelous, he's a big victory, he's a magnanimous victor, he's wonderful, and he's basking in it, right, this honeymoon period. And we don't know how long it'll last for. Let's just assume it's 2 years at best, right?
They got a midterm election.
Let's give him 2 years, right? But the disasters that might be created due to tariffs and trade wars, the destruction of the economy, of the agricultural sector, the building sector, through the migrant sort of roundups and
Have you got
things
anything
like that.
positive to say?
No, wait a minute. Now, listen. When during this time, when people are more irritated, the people who voted for him are getting irate, right, and seeing nothing has changed, and their promises being, you know, worthless, and it's like heroin addict getting cold turkey. When they'll be looking at they start looking at their personalities that they thought were great, and this man who seemed very, very great and aggressive and loud and that, right? A lot of them will be thinking, sexual predator, pimp, drug dealing. I don't really like this. And I think this is excellent and I hope that he takes him on because
Wait a minute,
because
you
he's
say really-
storing up trouble.
Do you say really like this or really
He's
don't like?
storing up trouble for the future.
Well,
Imagine that the Archbishop of Canterbury didn't resign.
yeah. All right.
Right? He could stay on for a couple of years and blow up the church.
All right. Look, you said last week you explained what a pogrom was,
A problem, yes.
right? And funny enough, as I was listening to other broadcasters, they were mentioning pogrom, right?
Well, I think
And-
some Israeli ministers were talking about the fight in Amsterdam.
And they use
And
that.
they use the word
yeah, and I
pogrom.
thought, oh my
Because they want to claim the word as just theirs,
Yeah.
as if pogroms can only happen to their special people.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm using the word pogroms, right, socially.
Well, if we go back, my interpretation is the pitchforks
Yeah.
and the torches,
Yeah,
right, come marching down the streets,
yeah.
right? As you say, after a couple of years, after people realise what's happening in Trump. But let me just make this point before. So I call Trump a criminally insane person, right? Now he's actually
There is a minus 10% possibility that you're wrong.
right,
Yeah.
right, but he's actually recruiting other criminals,
Insane people.
right? And he's now becoming like one of these
Well,
cartels.
what a surprise! I would have not, but I never. You mean a criminally insane gangster is attracted to other criminally insane gangsters, and a dictator is attracted to other dictators?
Maybe if you want any office under Trump, you have to. The kind of record you need
Is
not a good history.
It's a bad history. An
It's a criminal record.
A criminal record. Yes, a criminal record. Because as Al Capone may say, if he was still alive, look, I need people I've got something over. I need people to work with that I've got something on,
Yeah,
right? And they're gonna do what I want.
But meanwhile, back to the Pope. No, he's not the Pope, is it?
The Archbishop
Archbishop.
of Canterbury, the truth.
Yeah. Why did my mind go to the Pope?
Well, actually, now, he's an English Pope, isn't he? I mean, that was created by Henry VIII, wasn't it? When he wanted to create a new church. Henry VIII was a Catholic, part of the Universal, the Church of Western Europe.
So he cut.
He cut ties, and he created himself as head of the church,
Yeah.
and he virtually created the Church of England, right, as his religious counterpart, and he created, he did, I don't know what happened, but archbishops and the structure we know of the Church of England, the High Church, right, which resembles Catholicism in some ways, was created as a special English version.
Well, I'm glad you said that because those of you listening and watching, at least that's a little bit of history. Some of them may have forgotten it, and some of them may not have known it.
So
So
the Eastern Orthodox Church, a long time ago, broke away from the Catholic Church. Constantinople, at that time the Byzantium, right? The Byzantine Empire was part of the Roman Empire, but they had an argument and a schism, and so they called themselves Orthodox and believed they were older and more original than the Catholic Church on the West. So there was an East-West split.
didn't Henry VIII have some problem with his sex life? And was he Anne Boleyn? Was it? What was the problem there? It was a sex thing, wasn't it?
Maybe his hands were very small, like Donald Trump. Maybe he would get Anne Boleyn with a rolled-up copy of the Daily Telegraph or the Times, and the New York Times, and whack him on the bottom.
So which one
A la Stormy Boleyn. Stormy Boleyn.
What was the?
No, I'm not saying Stormy Berlin because then we're talking about cabaret.
Thomas Becket. Where does
Thomas Becket.
Where does Becket come into this? Wasn't he the head of the?
Yeah, head of
the Church of England.
And I think he disapproved of the marriage. And and he had his head, his head was cut off.
Yeah, but not only him, but how many?
And a few others. Well,
The wise.
well, you're not meant to disagree with an absolute monarch. That wasn't allowed. He told him that he was doing something immoral, and Henry VIII didn't like being told that, so he had his head cut. He cut his head off.
And if we come back to today now, with the Archbishop and Prince Charles. Oh, you know it's his birthday today?
Oh, look.
Charlie.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
And the news report I heard a few hours ago was that he's actually opening up a couple of food hubs.
Delicious.
Not food banks.
Food hubs.
Oh, food hubs. It's a posh way of saying it. All way of saying it. All way of saying it is the food bank. I gotta go to the food bank.
Will it be full of caviar and Chateaubriand and will it Prosecco? What will these food hubs have that's special?
We'll report on it next week. We'll find out because it's only released today.
Caviar?
So as you were saying about
More caviar.
the Archbishop.
And cake. Let them eat caviar.
As you said about the Archbishop, there's going to be more heads rolling.
Yeah. No, you see, the thing is, right, it's quite serious. And that's where we bring in Matt Gates. You see, the thing is, right, a lot of people don't like that kind of thing.
Well, the abused people didn't like that kind of thing.
No, but as long as it was covered up, it didn't matter. It's only because it's been found out that it matters. After all, if they were that honest, they would have actually, number one, not done it. Number two, immediately kicked the people out or reported them.
Do you know where I heard the other casualties that are going to come from? Is the other people that actually knew and helped with the cover-up. They guts to go as
Let me
well.
tell you something interesting about this man, Smythe.
Okay.
Who was a lawyer for the church. And he didn't only abuse young men in Britain, but he did it all around the world, particularly in Africa, particularly in Zimbabwe and South Africa.
Okay.
And he'd been doing it for a long time, and it was covered up by both Justin Welby and probably by other archbishops before him, because he'd been around for a long time. He died at a very old age, 75 or something, I think, something like that. But the thing is, so it could include Kerry, it could include what was his Rowan Williams. Who was actually one of the more liberal ones, but nevertheless, it could have, the cover. Well, it's obvious that for as long as he was there, they knew that what was happening and covered it, just like they did in the Vatican. Covered.
And how many other...
No, listen, tell me something interesting about Smythe. Smythe was another far-right maniac.
Really?
Right, he was very anti-gay, he was anti-trans, he was a traditionalist, he didn't believe in he believed in family values, he didn't believe in...
Isn't there all the sins he committed?
Doesn't have to smell of Matt Gates, right? Doesn't have to smell... Now, Matt Gates, a very American Congress who just who might be
Head of legal.
Is the similarity right not glaring?
I don't know what to say.
The great moralist and traditionalist, right? The court with their pants down.
Literally, look, I've always had this kind of saying that the people
Often the libertines, right, who a lot of people hate because of the tabloids, and think, oh, they ever show off, or look at them, right? Often in the play, right, aren't actually the evil ones. They're the scapegoats. They're saying they're so awful. Oh, look at what they're doing. It's terrible. But actually, there they are, right, trying to just enjoy their life. But with the rules of not actually harming anybody.
Those people who are the moral guardians,
Guardians.
right?
Are
the worst abusers. Who would have you hang?
Oh, baby, they sing for the Star-Spangled Banner.
Are committing the same crimes,
Right?
right?
Oh,
That they tell you not to do.
Long live
Right? You will be sent to prison. Look at Donald Trump is a good example.
May we
Right.
victorious,
His lawyers-
happy and glorious.
His lawyers has gone to jail, right? His
Oh,
loyal,
Cohen! Cohen hates him, yes.
his loyal followers has gone to jail. The
Yes.
Bad Boys, right?
Yep.
And Steve Bannon, I think, is about to come out.
He's about to come out and be given a nice position.
See, the moral guardians,
God,
right, are the biggest committers of the sin. Their followers would go to jail, but not them.
Exactly. In fact, I was listening on the World Service last night, and I heard this story. It's not well known. It was just one of these stories about two Brazilian sailors. They were ordinary working class men from the small town of Santos, and they were promised by a man I think called Webb or Wade, an English businessman, who said that they could work for him. They won't get paid very much, but for the glory of using their sailing skills to travel across the Atlantic, and they thought it was great. So what he did is he gave them this job, and their first experience of sailing, they were very excited about it, and very innocently and naively wanted to sail on his ship. He never saw them after that, but he promised when it was over they'd get paid and they would have the glory of sailing across the Atlantic. And they sailed across the Atlantic to the Cape Verde, the Cape Verde in the islands off Senegal, which are unknown to them, is a very well used drugs run.
I think
Right?
I have heard that story.
They were locked up, and they could and they were a tiny cell which was like the size of a coffin, right? Very brutal prisons in Africa. When they came out, they thought, well, of course they will see, they will be let out. They believe that, but they were sentenced to 10 years in prison each, and they're still there, and they're waiting for their appeal. Now the thing is, they were wondering how come that the big kingpin from England couldn't be found. So now there's some organisation in Brazil, right, and maybe elsewhere, who knows, right, that have got together with the BBC to try to track this man down, the real culprit. But it's amazing. So the corruption that they, who were just like sailors, were locked up as scapegoats, and the kingpin gets away.
That's the way it is. Talk about Boris Johnson. Oh, I'm talking about sailing. Have you heard?
And
sailing-
I'll be back.
And sailing. And sailing.
Well, with Trump, he's got another chance, hasn't he?
Yeah. And sailing a little bit more closer to home from France to England. Have you heard the latest? The big bust that actually was just breaking an hour or so ago about the migrant crisis.
Well, there's so many of them everywhere.
All right, so I'll tell you what the breaking news is.
One here.
Actually, what was the front page of the Metro?
It's about it's another Trump's picks for pick for some military minister.
Yeah.
And he's some right-wing sort of macho man who's anti woke.
He says
and-
Israel doesn't exist, only Samaria.
Oh,
and-
that's right. I heard that as well. Yeah,
and-
what to say
and,
that?
and
Israel
Judah.
doesn't exist. Yeah, and it's Judea and Samaria.
Now funny enough, I used to use the word Judea, right? Israel never existed, right? Now you see, this is very interesting. This is like saying that the police has a two-tier
Well, they're
policing
from the
system.
Bible. They were-
Yeah, I know. But there's a
It's the same.
but listen to this juxtaposition here. When the far right said that there's a two-tier policing here in England, that's just a similar kind of juxtaposition.
Yeah, that's a position.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, and a lot of people would say, well, Israel never existed not until after 1948. He's actually saying, okay, it was called Judea and Samaria, right? Now, he's actually replanting in people's mind that Israel didn't exist.
Yeah, but that trope's been used by the Zionists in Israel for quite a long time. They've always called the West Bank Judea and the Gaza Strip Samaria. And the religious fundamentalists like Smotrich and Bezalel Smotrich and that other one who are in Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet, and probably Benjamin Netanyahu himself, because he's actually become a religious fundamentalist too. I have a deep belief in that, and believe that they need to repopulate Judea and Samaria
Now answer me this
and get
question.
rid of the Amalekites.
That was the question. What were they originally called? Because I'm sure they weren't called Jews.
Who knows?
You said Malachites.
In
Right.
the Torah, right? And it may be in the Old Testament of the Bible because it's quite similar, right? I don't know enough about this, but they were the people that attacked the Israelites as they came from Egypt under Moses,
All right.
and they were
Israelites.
destroyed.
Israelites.
Israelites,
Not Israel. Israelites.
and we're not talking
Okay.
Boney M here.
Okay.
The Boney M sounds nice.
Judea.
Don't criticize Boney M, whatever you do.
Yeah. Judea.
There.
12 tribes of Judea, right? One of the tribes is meant to be from Moses, that the Jews is meant to
Yeah.
come from because Moses chosen people, what have you.
Mhm.
I'm glad they went back to that because they're all supposed to live peacefully together in that area. But has anybody, first of all, told everybody that Israel has a wall around the whole
Yes,
of
wall
the...
around the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's not
most
been
people
mentioned.
in Britain know that there's a wall in between Belfast. Even after the peace deal, it hasn't been taken down. There's a wall dividing East and West Belfast. There are so many walls, right?
Is there?
Yes, there's so many walls everywhere.
I never knew about it.
Yes, it's called the Peace Wall. Imagine, and that Orwell would love it. The Peace Wall.
Oh, yeah, he has a little bit of extra thinking about
There's
this.
walls everywhere, and Israel is a fortress. And there's a big, there's a big fence around Hungary. Viktor Orban built it to keep migrants out.
All right, look.
There's more walls being built since the Berlin Wall came down. There's more walls being built,
All right.
and there's actually about 20 meters
Right.
of concrete wall in Texas.
Here's a reverse effect of the 6th of October. What we see Israel doing now, Israel's been planning this for years.
For years, planning for
Right.
years and years.
So the event of the 6th of October has actually probably what Israel is doing, if given the time, right, give it another year or 5 years.
Well, they would have had to think of a more complicated way of doing it if it wasn't for that
No.
that massacre.
Israel is killing people in plain sight, and people are going, "Oh no!"
No, I'm not saying that.
I know what you're saying.
You're fighting a battle which I'm not creating, right? That look, if that 6th of October, which was terrible and which was a horrible mistake by Hamas, who are not very nice people, but if they hadn't have done it, the plans would have been put in place, but they would have been done more slowly and sophisticatedly. The same plans would have been done, but this just gave them the excuse to speed up those plans. And now with Trump's election and the Christian Zionists in America and AIPAC and that, they're actually got all the cards. They're actually now, it looks like they're going to do it. And in fact, they seem to be clearing out the north, right? And probably later the south to actually put settlers in.
Yeah.
They had planned that for a long time, but they couldn't get away with it. But you see, unfortunately, people make mistakes, and when people are provoked to such an extent, often they actually fall into a trap which they were meant to. You see, in a way, I was reading that Hamas acted, right, because Saudi Arabia and some of the Gulf states were going to make a deal with Israel and marginalize the Palestine, who they've been supporting, their Arab brothers, right? But they in desperation, they'd make this attack. Unfortunately, right, it was very awful, and it allowed, right, the fascist Israeli state
Show their true hand.
Yes, but to claim moral superiority, to say, look what happened in 1940, and claim that, and then use that as a justification to actually carry out in a much faster rate what they've been doing at a slow rate. They planned it all along.
Tony Blair.
If October the 7th hadn't have happened, right, they will still, right, they will still take over the West Bank and Gaza.
Why?
And call it Jumeirah and Samaria and fill it with settlers.
Jews, yeah.
Because it's a settler colonial state.
All right. Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Why do we hate him?
Because his hairstyle doesn't look nice.
Because something he did. Why
The
was
Iraq War and the lies, right, that were spread about Saddam
45
Hussein's
minutes.
45
women's mass destruction?
mass destruction, right?
Right.
And yeah,
How many years ago was that?
this was a wow, who knows now, nearly 15, 20 now, I
It's
don't know.
about 20 years.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a long time, yeah.
Now, how strong is this feeling or hurt with people today?
Wow, it's awful. That's awful, terrible.
Still the same. Still
It's
strong.
awful. Oh,
Right. Now, the Israel war. Okay, this is Tony Blair. This is someone in our thing. So, what Israel is doing?
who won the election over the Tories? Tony Blair, right? His progressive wing of the party, which kicked out the far left that wanted a peace deal, right, in the Middle East, and justice and a two-state solution. The Blairites have actually won. So the Blairites and the Zionists have actually won.
All right. So, my point being,
And they're just going to ignore what's going to happen.
to use this word, vision, hate of Tony Blair still exists. Right? People are out there to try and arrest him for war crimes still. Right? That's 20 years ago. This war, right, affects us more. And it's so, back in Tony Blair's day of Iraq war, we didn't have the instant picture, we
Yeah,
didn't...
but another thing people have forgotten, right, is that Tony Blair was made some sort of international minister after he resigned, right? And
Middle East
Middle East envoy, and he allowed the massacres in the Lebanon to happen. He allowed it. So he wasn't just a criminal one time; he was a criminal twice,
all the time.
and especially in the Middle East.
Right. So that is
He is totally biased.
right. So that is 20 years. Right. Now, indirectly, all right. The people of Iraq, it still affects them. Interestingly, I heard a question today from somebody's program, which I actually didn't listen to, and they actually said, and let me finish. There's two parts. They actually said,
I'm not gonna,
would you allow the people fleeing war from Gaza, Palestinians, special thing, to come to England? Okay, that's the first part.
Yeah.
Now the second part was that the Tommy Robinson England first said when they had that rally and Tommy Robinson he gave himself up and he's now doing time.
Yep.
One of the things they did on that day was they had a petition they handed to Downing Street in order for them not to have any Palestinian refugee come to
Yeah.
England. Now the facts are becoming a bit more.
But remember, he's not that sophisticated. Well, unless he's an MI5 agent, who knows? But or an MI6 agent. But
So what do you call Trump?
He doesn't. If that's the case, then he knows what's happening in the Middle East, and it's deliberate. But
Oh, you
it
mean
might
Tommy
be
Robinson.
possible that he's just Islamophobic, and he doesn't want any Muslims in Britain, and he's on the side of Israel because they're Islamophobic, and he's easily being used. But either way, it's very nasty and prejudiced
Back to
and racist.
back to the news today about the immigration and the boats thing. So they arrested a kingpin that organizes, I think he's of Turkish origin, that organizes the boats for the crossing, right? So MI5, what do they call it? It's a different section of the British police. It's between MI5, MI6 and the police. CI something, Criminal Intelligence Agency or something, the British version of it. So I was looking at the news conference. So they arrested the kingpin, right? Now, look, from day one, right? I said to you, we have the MI5, MI6, we have James Bond in movies. We are meant to have the best SAS, the best army, the best military.
Did you know the French equivalent of the MI6 called the DGSE, right? They actually blew up the Greenpeace Rainbow Warrior in New Zealand.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Wow!
That's a good few years ago.
Amazing, isn't it?
Well,
All forgotten.
well, maybe that's why Extinction
Look at Rainbow
No,
Warrior.
that was the birth of Extinction Rebellion. So it's like, damn, that's
That-
it.
yeah,
No,
like,
no more,
possibly, yeah.
no more nice guy.
Where the hell are they?
Extinction Rebellion
Yeah.
in prison
Yeah.
during time.
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, back to how Great Britain is militarily. Aircraft, RAF, Navy. Like, remember our joke? If they parked an aircraft carrier in between England and France, you'll be able to see, right? From England, you'll be able to see who's walking on the deck of the aircraft carrier.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
From France, you'll be able to see the other side of that, right?
Okay.
And compare an aircraft carrier to a freaking
And an American aircraft carrier probably
twice the bloody
would
size.
twice the size.
In fact, if it turns sideways,
Yeah, sideways.
you walk across to France.
Actually, if it was to go sideways, it might push
It'll block-
Dover further out from France, which might be something that Trump will order them to do.
Right.
To push the whole British Isle, to tow it closer to America.
Now, the reason why that the Labour Party is not mentioning anything about immigration is because there is a treaty for people fleeing war, destruction, whatever, famine or whatever.
After the Second World War,
Yeah.
signed by Winston Churchill, the European Human Rights or something. There's an international convention that really isn't to do with Europe. It's an international convention.
It's like slavery.
It's called European.
It's like slavery. Britain was the mastermind in it, but what do they get credit for stopping it? It's just the same with this treaty.
Oh yes, that's right. It's true. I remember a long time ago. I was looking, I wanted to copy out some A4 pages on slavery, and I looked on I looked on Google, and I saw one page or less than one page of A4.
Wilberforce was his name, was it?
No. One on slavery,
Okay.
right? then I looked on the abolition of slavery, 4 pages, and lots about William Wilberforce. And I thought, there's 4 pages, right? 4 A4 pages on the abolition of slavery, right? Which probably took about 20 years, right? And the 400 years of slavery with their huge profits, right? And massive brutality is only got 3/4 of a page.
And
Fantastic.
and look at the
Ridiculous.
Look at the conundrum today, and this is part of the point of doing these podcasts and focusing on these anomalies. Well, not anomalies. These are
Deliberate.
these are kind of the cause of the migrant crisis in Europe at the moment was because of that treaty Britain helped to construct, right? Who are now, the people of Britain are saying it's a problem.
Well, the migrant crisis is probably.
There is no migrant crisis.
Well, there isn't a migrant crisis.
But anyway, carry on.
No.
Carry on with
There isn't. No, in fact, if there were safe legal routes, that really a lot of it would be solved and done very quickly. In fact, and it wouldn't be necessary to use hotels.
Shall I tell you
And
why
many
this?
of them who are coming in could be working in the NHS social care and picking.
Shall I tell you why there's a
Picking
migrant
fruit.
crisis? Because it's a political tool
Yes.
used by mainly the conservative.
Mainly conservative.
Because look at the police force.
But
Look
also the right wing of Labour.
Yeah.
To actually divide and rule.
Right.
Because the race card, right, the famous word, the race card, which is used all around the world, right, in different forms, is one of the best tools that rulers have to divide working class people
let me
into segments
let me add.
and have them
Fight
argue
against
and
each other.
Fight against each other.
In fact, it's to divide and fuck up all of the organs of state. The prison system, too much prisoners in there, right? So they got to let them out. You haven't got enough police, and half of the police are the wrong type of people to be in the police force. The health service is as sick, is as sick as the patients that go there, right?
Well, I tell you what. Now, this is interesting. With Trump in charge, right? He might put a maniac, right, who wants to actually, right, send American private healthcare people over, right, and actually break up the NHS and take the bits that he wants, which could be the end of the NHS. And the end of the NHS could be a problem even for the Labour Party in general, even the right wing of the Labour.
It's already
because
started.
they actually, the Labour Party exists basically on the NHS. It was the first and the largest collective organisation in the world, and that's their basis. Even the right-wing Labour rely on the NHS. Then Trump might just say to them, right, you know, we don't want this NHS, it's communist, socialist, we want to break it up, right, and take bits of it for private.
It's already
And
started.
Farage will help them because he wants private healthcare systems.
It's already started. Have you seen the G4S label on the hospital vans and stuff?
No, I haven't.
Have you seen the G4 label
Wow.
on the
Wow.
criminal vans that go? Look
I
again.
think maybe so, but not on the hospitals. That
Yeah.
shocks me.
Yeah, this
I was
already there.
shocked as hell.
The cleaners in the hospital is from a private contractor.
My God.
Right? It's not in house.
Not in-house. Oh my God, yeah.
Right? So it's already
Yeah,
started.
but actually, the deal with a deal with America might be the end, right, of the public NHS in general.
And why is it the government can overpay the bill? Remember Carillion.
Well, trillion, yeah. Public-private financial initiative
Which
started
went
by
what?
Blair.
For a friggin' bust.
Of course, yeah.
Right? The Elizabeth line,
Mm,
which isn't finished.
yeah, of course.
HS2. Were they part of HS2? Anyway.
No,
No, I think that's a separate company.
no, but yeah.
Sunak, Richie,
But they were huge. I remember they were very, very large. And when they went bust, they were very large.
who paid the bill?
don't know.
We did.
Yes, of course, that makes sense. Yeah. Of course, if they went bust, of course, they were bailed out.
All right.
They might have declared bankruptcy so that they can keep all their privately accrued wealth, right, and store it like a squirrel in an offshore, some offshore.
So
Liechtenstein.
one of the biggest blames that the immigrants get tarred with is that housing.
Housing, yes.
Whose fault is it that there isn't enough houses there?
Well,
Whose fault is it about the NHS problem?
Well, it's obviously under.
Whose fault is it about the schools? There isn't enough school
Under
places.
capitalist system, building houses is private. When we had the pre-Thatcher, the
Why is there not-
councils
I know.
that
Why is there
directed
not-
building council housing? There was quite a lot of council housing.
Why is there not enough prison spaces?
Because not enough.
It's the immigrants. There's too many immigrants in prison.
Yeah, I forgot. I
Right.
understand.
So that
too many immigrants.
the immigrants are used because the people who were in charge, government was
Yeah,
in
but
charge,
you're-
did not do what they were supposed to
yeah,
do.
but you're-
Right? They're going, no, we don't need
Yeah,
to
but-
do that.
yeah, but
Look at the immigrants.
Do you know how many immigrants, right, are actually taking refuge in Suella Braverman's head? In fact, there's no room for her to have a cerebral hemisphere. She has got no room for her brain, right, because the immigrants are taking up all the place and are shouting and screaming, and they make her angry all the time because they have actually climbed through her ears at night, right? Every night, right, immigrants climb through her ears and up her nose and rest there, right? And the same with Priti Patel, right? Their head is full of immigrants.
So you call them the far right. Where were they born? I mean, that's where in which party were they born in? The Conservative, right?
Yeah, well, actually, they're very wealthy.
Now this is why I do the podcast. There's a part of the Conservative Party which just hates immigrants, hates people of color, hate anything that is different.
But now, this is interesting. How many conservatives hate immigrants from their guts psychopathically, and how many of them are big liars and actually don't actually hate immigrants, but think this is, as long as they keep being more racist than thou, right? They can climb up the greasy pole.
The boiling point was the riots of the 4th of August, where people were showing their colours, right? Hate marches.
Hate marches, yes, I've been on them. I quite hate.
Now this is the duality about the world we live in, right? And I'm talking about, I use the term uneducate
I
yourself.
also ate sandwiches. I ate some. I went on those Palestinian hate marches. I drank. I hate coffee, especially when it was cold. Right. I had hate sandwiches, and I met Hare Krishna, and I had a hate-free meal.
All right, so what want you to focus on
Hate-filled vegetarian meal.
is this duality, right? Right, so the police force will tell us all the crime is committed by young black kids. So we have to stop and search them. Why is it that white people don't think that stop and search would happen to them, right? Why is it that police are actually giving one view about how things are? Why isn't the police never said that we're so full of, we've got, look at the people walking into friggin'...
Well, knife crime in Glasgow and Newcastle isn't done by any black people because there's hardly any of them there. It's done by young white people.
Right, and look at the people who are
But
walking...
of course, it's always associated with black people. It's so associated that it's almost impossible to use the word knife crime and then not
It's a lie,
think about
it's
a black
propaganda,
person.
it's a lie, it's
Even
propaganda.
if it's that's why two black athletes, right, one from England and one from and her husband from Portugal, right? Two top athletes on the way to the running track.
In of all places, a place called White City.
Everybody wanted it, yes, the dog track.
Shepherd's Bush.
Right, Shepherd's Bush, right? Well, could be stopped and brutally, even with their small child. It's a really strange thing.
No,
because
it's not. It always has happened. It always will happen. It will always continue to happen. And it's still being propagated.
The woman with the woman, a husband and a child, right, in their tracksuit, the most uncriminal-looking people on earth, right? Right?
Did Dr. Shipman get treated that way? Did that nurse, was it Legby? Did she get treated that way?
Yeah, but you've got to remember, white people have something pure and decent.
Was the guy who did all the killing in and was in prison? He killed all the prostitute and.
Jack the Ripper.
No, more recent. He was a lorry driver.
But he might have been good to his dog. I heard that Hitler was quite good to his dog.
All right. Look, people walking into stores, right?
And Hitler was as white as the colour of snow.
People are walking into stores, right?
Except
Filling up their trolley
They
basket,
went blue.
filling up their trolley basket with food and just going straight out, right? All over England.
Yeah, but just statistically, the majority of people in England are white, so the majority of crime must be white people, right?
All right, so that's one aspect, right? So that is in relation to law, right? When it comes now down to education, why is it that we have a problem? Why is it teachers are overworked, they're underpaid, they're overstressed, right? And we've always been told, oh, we have a wonderful system, right? It's the best in the world. They're not.
British exceptionalism. Now you've got American exceptionalism, which is even more exceptional.
And who do they blame for the problems? It's the immigrants.
Immigrants eating cats and dogs.
Right. Who are too many of them going to the schools?
Yes, I've never heard of any Afghan refugees eating cats and dogs in Britain. I wonder why. Do they cover it up? Is it the Church of England covers up their Is it what is it that why do? I mean, maybe they have a shawarma grill and they have little Freddy the Poodle in there.
All right. So my point being, education is in crisis, right? The legal system is in crisis, right? The incarceration system is in crisis. The police is in crisis.
The capitalist system is in crisis.
The point I'm getting at is this. No, it actually isn't. No, they're making more money than ever.
No.
We have 2 billionaires who's one now the deputy president of America now.
No, they're perpetually in crisis. The crisis makes them wealthy. Actually, paradoxically, the crisis
they're not in crisis.
We are. They're not in crisis.
They put us in a crisis.
So maybe you're right, and I've been using the wrong terminology. So I haven't actually taken it any further and mentioned it simplistically. Yes, the capitalist crisis belongs to us, right? But capitalism is working fantastically for them.
And who paid for the banks when they went bust in 2008? Us.
It wasn't Harold Shipman.
And they got bonuses.
Or Swallow Blavman.
What about the water company?
Or Tony Blair.
What about the current water company?
Water company.
Thames Water.
Thames Water.
It's going to double increase our price.
How dare you? Are you trying to insult the water? You mean Thames sewage?
We're floating in it, aren't we? Try swimming in the Thames.
Thames Tory sewage. Thames Tory sewage.
Right. So my point is this duality, right? That they're lying to people, right? Thames are fantastic. The water company is fantastic. Education is fantastic.
The
Police is
Labour Party
fantastic.
said in their manifesto that they wanted to actually take back water into public control.
Well, they clean up the ship.
To clean it up. They're not going to do that. They're not going to say it's too expensive or something. No. They're not going to nationalise anything. No, nothing's happened at all. Nothing. Other policies have been done. No.
No. Wait. There's a trick here. So what was said today? Oh, the undercover police. 2 undercover police today. How nice of them. Is it? Oh, no. One's got radio, one. Yeah, nice. Nice. They look after us in this one.
Good.
Today, pension, all of the government pension and local pension will be put into a fund, right, which is going to be invested on the stock market, right? Was it last week I said about the national? You had this certificate. Remember these bonds? These bonds, premium bonds. Remember premium bonds, right? But anyway,
that means that if the companies they invest in go bust, the people will be getting less pension. Will they?
Well, the only people that are making money, right? You see, why is Elon Musk one of the richest guys in the world and Jeff Bezos? Is because they when they float shares and stuff and people get interested in it, then it goes up in price.
Yeah.
The other companies, Apple as well.
Floating shares.
Right. So
I didn't know about that, but
you kind of
yes.
picked up bits and pieces.
Yeah. Floating shares. It makes sense. Floating shares make sense.
You hear it, but you don't actually put it together. Right. So Apple is one of the biggest, richest company at the moment because of the shares and values of shares and what have you.
Yeah.
So
tech companies are the new oil companies.
that's if you invest in them and if you've got shares in them.
Yeah.
Right. Now, so that's what they're going to do to the pension. They're going to put it on the stock market.
On the stock. Oh,
Right.
terrible! Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Well,
because I didn't hear it.
Well,
Because there's so many things to think about.
No,
I didn't look into it.
No, that's literally within the last few hours. It was released.
Wow.
It was released last night. Okay, and today they made a speech. It won't
So
be
they're going to be floating about
Right.
on the stock market, going up and down.
right. So yeah. So what do you call it?
In a way like Tesla, they'll be going up and down.
Yes.
So pension funds.
Fund managers.
So all these pensioners, right, who love the Tories and wave their flag, all these UKIP types, right, don't realise they're being conned. That their lifeline, right, is actually being played around with.
All right. Did you ever figure it out? When you paid an insurance, say like a life insurance, and you only paid a premium, and probably in a lifetime you'd only pay £10,000.
So,
Did you ever figure it out how they could pay £1 million out on your death? They took your money and they were investing it in the stock market, right? And so the yields, that's what
I think I've heard about that, but I never.
they always did from day one when people talk about insurance. But never did anybody see
Will that affect the people themselves?
which people, which people,
The pensioners. No, I don't mean the stock market. I mean, will it have an effect? Because if it doesn't have an effect on the money that's legally on the money that's actually handed out,
all right.
then it's not nice.
Right. In short term,
It's not going to value us to actually
actually in short term, no. Same way you pay car insurance, right? You pay in America. You got the hospital people. You pay
You
the
see, the
insurance.
question is, right, who will make up the shortfall so that the pensioners actually get the legal amount that they're owed? Because if the stocks do go down and there's a big loss, right?
All right. There was,
and that the pensioners
All right, there
still
was-
have to get their money,
there was-
then is it the government and the taxpayer that then adds up the money that's being taken by the yuppies on the stock market?
that's what they did.
Right?
That's what they did in 2008 to build the banks out. Right. That's what they did. The Daily Mirror. Do you remember the guy who jumped off the boat?
Oh, Maxwell.
Right. Do you know where he took most of the money from? It was the pension fund. It took a long time, and the government did pay them back. But it looked like they didn't.
Oh.
Now, in more recent time, they have increased the retirement age of all of us.
Yes, yes.
But the biggest complainant was the women. What do they call them? Waspies?
Yes.
Right? What is the latest ruling?
It's probably against them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, horrible.
Right. Now you're talking about
Horrendous.
what the future is going to be. What did you say Trump was going to say about? What is Trump saying about NATO? What's he saying about?
He's asking, I think, the European countries to pay more. But actually, the thing is, because he might actually want to bankrupt the European countries as rivals. So he started by cutting off the gas that came from Russia to Germany to get off the first rival, and then maybe not him, maybe someone else in the US establishment. But the thing is that it might be part of the US populist plan to actually crush Europe politically, because it's social democracy and liberal social democracy, and also as an economic rival.
I'll tell you what comes to mind, right? This guy. Let me tell you this story.
A political alternative model and a rival economic.
What you've just said about Trump trying to crush Europe reminds me of this joke about this guy in the dentist,
Yeah.
right? He grabs the dentist is just about to operate on his teeth, and he grabs him by the balls, right? And he says to the dentist, he says, "You don't hurt me, and I don't hurt you." If your biggest trading partner is Europe, do you want to hurt them?
If you're sane, no.
Wasn't it Trump that said don't? Wasn't he said don't buy any French wine?
Yeah. Yeah, but you see, we're dealing with an unknown quantity. And even right-wingers in Europe are scared. Nobody can really
They
understand.
don't know how to deal with a criminally insane person.
Yes.
I tell you where you go. You go to.
The thing is, right, that he thinks, right, by actually making a deal with Vladimir Putin.
All right,
that,
let's pause there. Let's do it. My thing's gone up. Right, still stay.
Right, we'll continue. Don't forget what you were thinking. Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Right.
See, I was. Anyway.
You see, I'm so. Give me a couple of sec. Take this one off. Oh no, I can't take that one off. Oh shit. Oh damn, I've gone offline. Shit. That shouldn't have gone offline. Anyway, it has. Alright. Okay. We are gonna finish this on.
Drop it down a bit. Got something going on. So I knew this was going to. All right, we got 10 minutes. We'll conclude, and we've just gone offline. Hello.
Let me just double check this here. X. Come on. It's frozen. You're still, well. Tell you what. See. Back. Now, you think the simple things we do is simple.
It's far from simple. That's repeating itself.
Shut that down.
That must have been you earlier when you were on your own.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, we'll just leave it for that.
Now we'll finish